All right. Good afternoon and happy Friday, everyone. We'll start with a couple of travel announcements. The Secretary General will travel on the 5th of June to St. Petersburg in the Russian Federation, where he will participate in the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, which begins in that city on the following day. The forum will be a venue where the Secretary General can talk to leaders about implementing the Sustainable Development Goals. The theme of this year's forum is Creating a Sustainable Development Agenda. The Secretary General will travel back to New York on the 8th of June. This evening, the Deputy Secretary General, Amina Mohammed, will depart New York for London to attend the Our Shared Humanity meetings of the United Nations Association UK and Chatham House. Those meetings will take place on the 3rd and 4th of June. The Deputy Secretary General will also be meeting with senior officials and other stakeholders on advancing the Sustainable Development Goals while in London. The United Nations is supporting the government of Mozambique, which is convening a pledging conference for recovery and reconstruction in the wake of the devastation caused by tropical cyclones Idai and Kenneth. Two strong tropical cyclones hit Mozambique and the Southern Africa region in the same season for the first time in recorded history. The pledging conference, which began today, is bringing together 500 representatives from governments, international organizations, development partners, the private sector, and civil society. The Secretary General will have a message for the conference tomorrow in which he will reiterate his appeal to the generosity of the international community, noting that this is the moment to translate into concrete gestures our solidarity with Mozambique. He will also stress how the cyclones warn us about the urgency of tackling climate change. The Assistant Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, Ursula Mueller, will visit Madagascar from the 3rd to the 5th of June to see firsthand the humanitarian situation in the country. Ms. Mueller will meet with senior government officials and other stakeholders to discuss the humanitarian response and preparedness to climate-related challenges, which exacerbate the risks faced by extremely vulnerable people, particularly in the Grand Sud region. Madagascar has been beset by recurrent disease epidemics, including plague and measles, and vulnerability to natural disasters, in particular cyclones, and chronic food insecurity and high levels of stunting in the south of the country. Our humanitarian colleagues tell us that the number of people who have fled their homes due to the fighting in Libya's capital, Tripoli, has surpassed 90,000, according to the UN Migration Agency. This week alone saw 8,000 people, half of them believed to be children, displaced. Aid workers continue to provide assistance to the internally displaced and to other vulnerable people impacted by the ongoing hostilities, with more than 47,000 people in Tripoli and surrounding areas having received help to date. Food, water, and other essential items are being supplied to newly displaced families, while psychosocial support is being provided to conflict-affected children. The UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, says that almost 4,300 Somali refugees have now returned home from Yemen, since the rollout in 2017 of an assisted spontaneous return program facilitated by UNHCR in cooperation with humanitarian partners and authorities in Yemen and Somalia. In the latest departure, a boat carrying 125 Somali refugees departed Aden on Wednesday afternoon. The vessel arrived at the port of Berbera in Somalia yesterday morning, bringing home men, women, and children in time for the Eid holiday. With Yemen being the world's largest humanitarian crisis and civilians facing life-threatening conditions, the situation for refugees and asylum seekers and migrants has deteriorated significantly. Somali refugees comprise 90% of Yemen's refugee and asylum seeker population, or some 250,000 people. And we flagged earlier this week, but just a reminder that today is World No Tobacco Day, which is focusing on the damage that tobacco causes on lung health, and there's plenty more information on this on the World Health Organization's website. And I just want to flag that here at UN headquarters, we are taking steps to curtail our own use of single-use plastics. As you may have noticed when visiting the UN cafeterias, we're switching to more sustainable alternatives. This is part of an ongoing effort to green the building and advance sustainable management and operations. And I would like to correct something I said yesterday when I had said that Nikolai Mladenov had been invited to the meeting on the Middle East in Bahrain. He has not received an invitation. And last, on Monday at 3 p.m., there will be a briefing here by Ambassador Mansour Al-Otaibi, permanent representative of Kuwait to the United Nations and President of the Security Council for the month of June. He will brief you on the Council's program for the month. And with that, are there any questions before we turn to Monica? Yes, Carol.
Farhan, just to clarify then on the Bahrain conference, no one from the UN was invited and no one is going?
I don't have anything in particular to say about invitations. If we have any discussions or decisions about that in the coming days, I'll let you know. But at present, we don't have anyone who is slated to attend. Masood?
Yeah, so follow up on this question. So what does it mean for the Palestinian, and if they do not get the money and so forth? What does it mean?
For if they do not get money for their work, we've encouraged all member states to supply the funding that's necessary for the Palestinian Authority to be able to function effectively and for the humanitarian conditions in Gaza to be improved, and we continue to do that.
Also, can you tell me about this? We were just talking about Yemen and that all the Somalis have left the area.
Not all of them, just about 4,000 of them. There's about 250,000 of them in Yemen.
Yes, sir. What I'm asking is, how does it impact this, with the Trump administration giving more aid to arms aid to Saudi Arabia? Does it affect the relations between? Is going to impact the situation in Yemen?
Obviously, we've encouraged all the parties in the region to do what they can to make sure that the hostilities in Yemen are ended. We're continuing with our own diplomatic work, trying to bring the parties together. You'll have seen some of the results of that in Stockholm and with the Hudaydah agreement, but we're continuing to try to do all we can to end all hostilities throughout the country. Yes, please.
Yes. Hi, Mohammed with Al Jazeera. Sudan's Transitional Military Council has ordered yesterday for the shutdown of Al Jazeera media network in the capital without providing any specific reasons. What is your reaction towards this development? Are you concerned that this may foreshadow a crackdown against the protesters in the capital, especially that the military council yesterday warned that the gathering in the capital has become a threat to the country's national security? Thank you.
Regarding the situation in Sudan, we may have a statement later today concerning the situation, and we'll share that once we have that. Obviously, we are concerned about some of the recent tensions. We want to make sure in the coming days that all the fundamental rights and liberties of the people are fully respected, and that would include freedom of expression, of course. And in that regard, of course, we want to make sure that all media are able to do their work in Sudan without harassment. Yes, please.
Thank you, Farhan. So the question about Kosovo again, this Russian diplomat who was previously detained and beaten in Kosovo now is declared the persona non grata. I wonder if you have any comments on that. And also, it was announced that Kosovo authorities want to withdraw his diplomatic immunity, and they sent a letter concerning this to UN. So this raised two questions: if you received this letter, and if it's legally possible to withdraw his diplomatic immunity.
Regarding the question of persona non grata, I'd like to note that the doctrine of persona non grata does not apply to or in respect of United Nations personnel. The doctrine applies to diplomatic agents who are accredited by one state to another in the context of their bilateral relations. The United Nations is not a state, and its personnel are not accredited to the states where they're deployed, but work under the sole responsibility of the Secretary General. So that's where we stand on that. And of course, regarding the question of immunity, we stand by the immunity of our personnel who are on duty, and we have done so in this case. Yes, please.
Thank you, Farhan. There were reports today about execution of the lead negotiator of the denuclearization from North Korea, Kim Hak-chol. Is there any verification from the UN office in Pyongyang? And if so, does the Secretary General have any reaction if this report is true regarding the execution of this top diplomat?
We are at this stage unable to confirm these reports. We're aware of the reports that there has been an execution of an official in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, but since we do not have any way of confirming that, I wouldn't have any further comment at this time. Yes, please. Sure.
Sorry, Farhan, when you said you have no way, I mean, was any inquiry made, any question raised with North Korea about this?
I don't have any information to verify this particular report. We are aware of the report, however. Yes, please. You first and then Carla.
Morning, Farhan. Thank you. I have two questions. One is, now that we have a new government in India, is there any communication between the Secretary General and the new government?
Well, we'll continue to be in touch with the government of India. Of course, we deal with them on a large number of issues. And as I pointed out to your colleague yesterday, the Secretary General has been very appreciative, in particular, of the work India has done recently concerning climate change. Yes.
I have another question.
Can we go to your colleague and then back to you? Yes, Carla.
Thank you. Is there any information at this point on the status of the Venezuelan foreign minister who has been sanctioned by the United States? I was told that with the sanctioning, he cannot get a visa to come here. Can he come to the United Nations? What are the obligations of the host country under this circumstance?
Well, under the host country agreement, officials from other countries are supposed to be allowed into the country to undertake UN duties. So, as far as we're aware, the U.S. has been upholding those responsibilities. Yes.
Expect that they will in this case.
It's not a question of whether I expect. They've been doing so far. Yes.
Deepak Arora again from the Tribune Online. Mr. Farhan, climate change and good health and well-being are parts of Sustainable Development Agenda. Mm-hmm. Now, recently, World Health Assembly concluded, and Taiwan was not allowed to participate in it in any format, whether as an observer or what. Now, recently, Secretary General had visited Fiji and some of the Pacific Islands, and he said that climate change is battle of my life. I was quite impressed by it because he wants to save tiniest of the countries, you know. Similarly, we need to look at the health and well-being of the world, you know. In that context, would you tell us, would the Secretary General, from your Secretary General's office, as to what efforts he would make so that Taiwan is allowed to participate in such meetings in the future? As they have, what I was surprised to learn that they have done a lot of development, like in eradicating malaria, chikungunya, etc. And that part of the world, many countries are facing these issues. So if we could have more cooperation on that, that would be good and helpful in achieving sustainable development goals.
Well, the decisions on the membership in the World Health Assembly are taken by the states there, and so we leave that matter in their hands. Of course, we encourage the participation by as wide a range of the peoples of the world as can be allowed. Regarding the question of Taiwan, you're aware of our stance and our adherence to the One China policy and to the relevant resolutions of the General Assembly, including the resolution on China passed in 1971. And with that, I wish you all a happy weekend. Monica, all yours.